When we talk about managing type 2 diabetes, our minds immediately go to food, right? Carbs, proteins, fats. But what about what we're drinking? It can make up something like 20% of our daily calories. So today, we're going to build a really clear, science-backed pyramid of the best and worst drinks for your blood sugar, starting with the absolute basics and working our way up to the surprisingly complex. All right, here's our game plan. We're going to kick things off with the absolute number one non-negotiable drink. Then we'll get into the fascinating paradox of coffee and tea. After that, we'll look at milk, which is a really surprising one. We'll check out some new functional drinks on the scene, then cover what you really want to rethink or avoid. And finally, we'll wrap it all up with a simple scorecard so you can see how your own habits stack up. So let's start at the very foundation of our pyramid. And I'm telling you, this isn't just about not being thirsty. This is about a core physiological process that is absolutely crucial if you're managing your blood sugar. Let's just flip the script for a second. What if one of the biggest dangers to your blood sugar control isn't what you're eating, but what you're not drinking? It turns out something as simple as dehydration can kick off a really dangerous cycle in your body. And that leads us to this really important clinical term, osmotic diuresis. Now, I know it sounds complicated, but the idea is actually pretty simple. It describes this vicious cycle that starts when your kidneys, your body's filtration plant, get totally overwhelmed with too much sugar. So here's how this whole dangerous chain reaction plays out. Once your blood sugar gets up to around 160 to 180, your kidneys basically throw up their hands and say, I can't keep up. All that extra sugar spills into your urine. And because of basic physics, osmosis, that sugar literally pulls water out of your body with it. This makes you dehydrated, which then makes your remaining blood sugar even more concentrated. And the cycle just keeps feeding itself. And just how bad can it get? Well, in really severe cases, something called hyperosmolar hyperglycemic syndrome. The total water your body loses can be as high as 10 liters. Think about that. 10 liters. That single number just screams why plain, simple water isn't just a healthy choice, it's your most powerful tool to break this cycle. Okay, let's move up the pyramid a bit. We're going to look at two of the most popular drinks on the entire planet. And it turns out they present this fascinating scientific puzzle for anyone with diabetes. So what's the deal with your morning coffee? I get this question all the time. Does it help or does it hurt? And the honest answer is kind of both. It really depends on if you're talking about the next hour or the next 10 years. The science tells two completely different stories. So here's the paradox. In the short term, right after you drink it, the caffeine can actually trigger a bit of a stress response and temporarily make your blood sugar go up. But, and this is a big but, in the long term, all these other amazing compounds like chlorogenic acid in coffee and catechins in tea get to work, actually helping your body handle sugar better and fighting inflammation. And the long-term payoff? It's absolutely staggering. Check this out. A huge study in Japan on people with type 2 diabetes found that drinking a combination of at least 4 cups of green tea and 2 cups of coffee a day was linked to a 63% lower risk of death from any cause. That's not just a small effect, that's a massive, powerful benefit. All right, let's talk about another staple, milk. For decades, the message has been pretty clear about which type is healthy. But new research is really starting to challenge those old ideas, especially when it comes to blood sugar. I mean, for years, the logic was super simple, right? Fat has more calories, so skim milk or fat-free milk has got to be the healthier option. It's what all the guidelines told us to do to cut back on fat and calories. But let's ask a much more specific question. Does taking the fat out of milk actually help you have a better, more stable blood sugar response after you drink it? You might be surprised by the answer. Okay, so just look at this data. The fat in whole milk actually acts like a brake pedal, slowing down how quickly the sugar gets absorbed. It blunts the glucose spike. Now look over at some of the plant-based milks. Rice milk and oat milk can be really high in carbs, and they can send your blood sugar on a roller coaster. Okay, let's shift gears and talk about some of the newer players on the scene. These are what you might call functional drinks, and researchers are just starting to uncover how they might actually improve our metabolic health. Two that are getting a lot of attention are bitter melon and kombucha. Bitter melon has this really unique compound that seems to mimic insulin and even help suppress the hormone that raises blood sugar. And kombucha? A recent study found that drinking it every day for just 4 weeks dropped people's average fasting blood sugar from 164 down to 116. That is a huge improvement. All right, now we have to climb to the very top of our pyramid. These are the drinks that pose the biggest risks, and it's not always just about the obvious sugar content. It's about how they mess with our body's metabolism. This quote absolutely nails it. Think about fruit juice. Even if it's 100% pure natural juice, you're falling into the fiberless trap. You've stripped out all the fiber that's meant to slow down sugar absorption. So you're basically drinking sugar water that hits your bloodstream like a tidal wave. Now this is probably going to surprise a lot of you. It's the diet soda paradox. A massive analysis found that diet sodas were actually linked to a slightly higher risk of developing type 2 diabetes than regular sugary sodas. The science is still emerging, but one idea is that the intense artificial sweetness confuses our brain and our gut, potentially messing up how we regulate appetite and process sugar down the line. So, what does this all boil down to? Here is the most important takeaway. It's not about any single drink you have on any given day. It's about the big picture. It's about the overall pattern of what you drink, day in and day out. To actually put a number on this, researchers came up with a really cool tool called the Healthy Beverage Index, or HBI. It's not about judging one drink. It's a scoring system that looks at the total impact of everything you drink, from water to coffee to soda. And the power of having a good overall pattern is just crystal clear. For people with type 2 diabetes, a higher HBI score, which basically means you're choosing water and tea over sugary stuff, was directly tied to less stress on the kidneys, better cholesterol, lower blood pressure, and way better blood sugar control after meals. And that brings us right here to the final and most important question. This isn't just about knowing stuff, it's about doing stuff. So, looking at your own daily routine, what's one simple swap, one easy change you could make starting today to boost your own healthy beverage index score?